District's invited the water boards here so that we can talk a little bit about drought. I know that Delaware County is doing okay with it, but there is a drought task force going on at the governor's level. Every week I'm on a conference call letting them know how Delaware's doing. Well, I want to make sure that Cindy is telling them how Delaware's doing correctly. So I thought it would be a really good time to come together just at the beginning of this meeting and talk a little bit to the districts and see where we're at and see, you're going to talk a little bit about the weather outlook.
I'll just give an outlook.
Yeah, for us. Okay, so first thing I want to do is I want to go around and introduce everybody. Oh, before I do that, pay attention to our new camera equipment over here. Remember when I said last year my goal was to make sure that every meeting was recorded and then it's going to get posted on a YouTube special thing. So if you miss a meeting, you can actually just go on there and watch the meeting on your time. So for those deputies that are on the streets, for those trainings that we're having where you can't get every employee to these meetings or these trainings, it'll be videotaped. So you can actually go on there. It'll be locked up to everybody else except for the people that are in the EOC or whatever. But you go on there and you can actually watch it at 3 o'clock in the morning if you're bored, so that you won't miss anything. So unless you're really opposed to it, Dennis or Daryl is just going to hit the record button. Nothing fancy. We're just going to, just so you can hear it, because it's just a meeting, right? So it's nothing fancy. But also remember, this is now available to anybody that's having meetings that wants to use this. I think this is a really good thing to have. If you have something you can't get everybody to a training or something, just borrow this. We're going to keep this at the IT department where it can be charged and ready to go. But this is disaster preparedness video equipment. We also have new equipment. We have 3 laptops ever since we did the public information officer training. And we did little short interviews and did PSAs out on the web, and they showed us how to do it. One of the things they said is get some portable mics, just use your camera or your camera on your cell phone or an iPad. So we bought 3 of these, and they will be housed in this closet also with all the rest of the EOC equipment. And we'll be taking notes and posting those on probably a Google Drive so everybody has notes for each of the EOC meetings. Questions about the equipment? And you can see it's really cool. It's on wheels, which is very cool. You can wheel it around. Yes?
Is there a specific phone name for it to find it on YouTube? Or just go EOC?
I'll let you know, because we haven't put it together yet, but we'll have our own web page, our YouTube thing, so that you can actually just go on there and video too. That's a good question. More technical than I can tell you right now. Okay, so let's go around. I'm Cindy Henderson, Emergency Services Manager.
Pat Jensen, sir.
Rory Johnson.
Start with just giving you a little bit of what the state's doing. If you got this weekly drought brief, this week's weekly drought brief. We get one every week. And you can see the fire activity. Cal Fire responded to 4,429 wildfires since January 1st. 84,833 acres. There's more up here if you need one, you guys up there. And you can take a look. It's got the reservoir levels. You can see we're pretty low. I've gone camping and Emigrant Lake is down to nothing. I mean, it's Lake Selma, nothing. If you go to the 3rd page, Governor's Drought Task Force has a drought task force that meets daily and takes actions for conserving water and coordinate the state's response to the drought. Local government proclamations, a total of 58 local emergency proclamations have been received to date from city, county, and tribal government, as well as special districts. 25 counties, 13 cities, 8 tribes, and 12 special districts. There's a big push for water conservation efforts. Every week I attend a drought conference call, it was yesterday, and I'm listening to the 6 different counties and what's going on in the different counties, and I know that, talking to the water districts, we're doing okay right now, but I wanted to just get together, bring you guys all together, make sure that I am putting out the right message. And if we don't have rain, which Reg is going to tell us if we're going to or not, right, Reg?
Right.
If we don't have rain, it's a task force that we'll probably have to come together, and we're going to have to work on this type of thing. Drought isn't something that we see very frequently in Delaware County, and it's brand new to me. Humboldt County is declared, along with the tribe of Europe up in Humboldt, and they absolutely said we can piggyback on and learn from what they've done from ground zero up also, which is really nice to have a neighboring county that's willing to help you out that way. So that's really nice. But I think the first thing we'll do is we'll start with Reg and see what our outlook is for the weather.
Oh, okay. So basically looking at the water year starting last October through the end of August, generally speaking for Delaware County, you're running anywhere from 45 to 60% of normal, which is pretty much reflected where you're probably not doing as bad as the rest of the state. Those who are familiar with the drought monitor, you're listed as severe drought, which is basically, if you look at the state in total, you're doing much better than most of the state. Some of you have probably heard about El Nino, and I know earlier during the summer, a lot of people thought it would be a fairly strong one, and everybody was generally hoping that would be the end of the state drought. But it had a hard time getting started during the summer. El Nino is a combination between the ocean and the atmosphere. They kind of have to lock onto it to make it happen. The ocean was ready, but the atmosphere wasn't, so it really stalled out during the summer. Some people even were thinking it may just fizzle completely, but it still looks like El Nino will happen sometime late this fall into the winter, but it's going to be a weak event, so no one's really expecting it to have a great impact on any precipitation potential for this far north in California. It may have some impact in extreme southern California into Arizona, that area. So for precipitation, we're going to have to hope for basically a kind of a more normal winter pattern, and hopefully that ridge won't build like we saw last winter and block everything. But generally, outlook for September that was issued in late August was for above normal temperatures to continue to northwest California, to include Delaware County, and then basically, because September doesn't really have a whole lot of rain with it, typically they call for equal chances of being above or below normal. But generally, the outlook, the 8 to 14 day outlook, which generally takes us to about mid-September, is basically saying above normal temperatures and below normal precip for Delaware County. And if we look into the fall season, September through November, it's continuing this above normal temperature trend for us, and it's basically saying as we go into the fall, equal chances for above, below normal. So there's no trigger of anything to say we're going to be above or below normal for precip. It is favoring above normal, generally speaking, in Southern California, and that fades into equal chances through the rest of California, central and northern, and then into below normal if you go into Oregon and Washington. And that's probably related to the weak El Nino forecast is set up. So there's no trigger saying we're going to have any good shot of above normal precip. So as of right now.
You guys want chairs? Myron, there's a chair in the closet if you want.
I'm all right. I'm good.
There's more over here too. You can just move my stuff. Yeah. Those people that came in, you want to introduce? Myron, you want to introduce yourself? We want around the tables. Introduce yourself.
Oh, Myron Winton with Little Community Service District.
Okay. And back here.
Lonnie Raymond, Chief of Probation.
Katrina Jackson, Assistant Chief.
Okay, good. Okay, so questions for Reg on the weather? Anything for him? Okay, thank you for that report. So we have quite a few of the different districts here, so I'm going to put Eric on the spot with his group first.
Can I ask one question?
Yes.
We had, now correct me if I'm wrong, we had the lightest rain season ever. Was this last year for Delaware County or something similar to that?
I can't remember if it was ever, but yes, it was up there.
I was just curious if there's any predictions as to what is anticipated for this winter.
Right now, as we go into winter, last I saw, if you're looking further in winter, what I had through November, it was still saying equal chances. There was no anything in the atmosphere that would indicate above normal precip for this coming winter right now.
All right, Eric, your group?
So, I don't know if any of you have seen the articles in Triplicate in regard to the state-mandated water conservation that's been implemented throughout the state. For the city of Crescent City, we're what they consider an urban water supplier, which means that we serve over 3,000 connections. So with that, and anybody that's on the city water supply, there are some mandatory conservation. Now, when you hear mandatory conservation, automatically you think, boy, there's water rationing, I can only use so much water. Really, this is just the first step of it, and all it is, in my opinion anyway, is just best management practices. So that has been implemented. So best management practices for people that are on the city water means that you can only irrigate your lawns during the nighttime hours, basically, or not. You can't irrigate between 10 a.m. in the morning and 6 p.m. at night. And again, it's just a best management practice. The theory is in hotter climates, if you irrigate during the day, you're going to lose a lot of your water to evaporation. So that's the mandate for Crescent City. Other conditions in this conservation mandate are you can't wash your car unless you have an actual nozzle on it. So you can't just wash your car with an open hose. You can't drain pools out and refill them. You can't wash your sidewalks down. Your irrigation needs to be irrigating your actual landscape and not the sidewalks adjacent to it. And so those are some of the mandatory conservation efforts that have been implemented statewide. Also, you'll notice in restaurants throughout town, they aren't supposed to just serve you with water anymore. You need to ask for the water. There needs to be some information in regard to the water conservation efforts that are located in the motel rooms. So if you stay in a motel room in Crescent City, you should see a pamphlet that says we're under emergency water conservation mandates at this point. The city has quite a bit of information on its website, so you can go to crescentcity.org and find a lot of that information. As far as the city system, we really haven't seen any impacts to the drought yet. The Smith River's low. We're concerned about it, but at this point, we don't have any information that would tell us that we're going to have any impact to the ability to be able to produce the water. Now, that's not saying the state might come down with a regulation that says we have to try to conserve even further than what we are now. But as far as a practical water production standpoint, we're not seeing any signs of any impacts at this point.
What would be a next step from the state? Have you heard, or maybe that's a question for Jan. Jan, have you heard?
Well, one thing that has come up quite a bit in Humboldt, Rio Dell specifically, is they did provide some water curtailments. This is a totally different situation than Crescent City, but basically what the situation was that they wanted to make sure that the regulations were in fact being enforced and that fines were being issued to people that were violating the restrictions. So with that conservation effort, there were also penalties involved, and it's just become just this big political nightmare. Thank you for that. So, I think the best course of action for cities, for instance, like Crescent City, to go ahead and continue on with your path of conservation. And at this point, there are no next steps other than making sure that people are trying to send it out to the public, public information that this is a mandate by the state. Exactly what you said, about washing cars with nozzles, watering at night because of the evaporation, all of those impacts that would slow down our water process. So,
have you heard any grumblings about what other mandate might come out of it?
I have not heard anything else other than they wanted to make sure that fines were going to be enforced, but who's going to be the water patrol is another question. So they did hire some extra help with Department of Water Resources to go out and do some enforcement activities within the state. I haven't seen anybody in Humboldt yet doing that.
So, Eric, when we talk about these mandated things, this is the blanket, so it's covering the whole state. So they can enforce and so that every water district, every up and down the state has to do this.
Yes and no. So what they did with this water conservation effort is they listed certain things that they wanted to see statewide, which are really the best management practices as far as washing your car, with the nozzle and not washing your sidewalks. They also put a regulation that the cities or urban water suppliers needed to go to a level of conservation within their water shortage contingency plans that would restrict outdoor irrigation. Is how they tied this in. So for us, that required us to go to a stage 2 water conservation effort, which then dictated by our plan that you couldn't irrigate between the hours of 6 a.m. and 6 to 9. So they would take it to the next step and say, you need to go to your, the next step of your plan, which dictates that you can't irrigate at all. Then we have to go to that level. But it might come down something like that. So it would still be a localized plan, and they'd be requiring you to go to a certain stage.
So you have a plan.
The city does have a water shortage contingency plan. Stage 1 is voluntary conservation. Stage 2 is this mandatory irrigation restriction, which is where we're at now. And then stage 3, it's a little bit more restrictive. And then stage 4 would be to where there's a curtailment that you can only use a certain amount.
All right. So let's hear from Climate Community Service District. How are you guys doing?
We're doing fine so far.
You're doing fine so far.
Yeah.
Okay, so
The wells are holding good. Everybody, we put them a couple of months ago. We started watching and sending notifications to be conservative with little tidbits and all the bills and everything, so.
How many homes do you have on it?
58 homes
Okay.
and about 4 commercial.
Okay, good. Church Street. Somebody here from Church Street? Yes. Who's here from Church Street? Nobody? How about Gaskey? Gaskey, how are you doing up there?
Because the river's not dry yet, we're doing fine.
Any concerns up there?
No, we posted the same thing we in the post office, but we're not going out citing anybody or anything like that.
Okay. So you're doing
It's strictly
that.
voluntary for now. I mean,
Okay.
the less they use it, the less we make.
Okay.
So Panther Flat Campground was on they had a well issue, or at least they posted that they did. Is that related? How is that different than the Gaskey water supply system?
What are you talking
Panther
about?
Flat Campground? I know that they
Okay, that wasn't a well, it was taken out of the stream, as I remember.
Okay.
That's right. Still taken out of that stream there?
I think so.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was a box in the stream, and the stream quit running, so that's the reason Panther Flat ran out.
Oh,
I used to work for Forest Service, I don't now, but we're also going to get the Forest Service tank that they have, because the Forest Service is now on Gaskey's system. And we looked at it here a while back and got levels on their tank and our 2 tanks up on North Fork. And there's just a few feet difference, seemingly like 6 or 7 foot difference or so. So we're going to be able,
How many homes do you supply water with?
I
About?
can tell you.
Don't guess? Okay.
Never
All right.
counted.
Big Rock.
Well, we kind of get proactive about this stuff. In the thing from the state, there was a statement that said that even though we weren't technically urban, if you sold water, that you were subject to a lot of these same conditions. So the board adopted a policy that basically mirrored what the state had said, what Eric had been talking about, and we put them in the notices with the last, I think it was even with the bill, it was before August 1st, because that was what the state was shooting for. And so we already have a conservation notice out with all of those points. No water running open, that sort of thing. And what we did a couple of years ago helped too, because apparently when the system was designed, there were folks that had business interests that when they set up the billing structure, if you used more water, there wasn't much of a penalty. And so we restructured that about 3 years ago. And so there's been, as far as our diversion rate goes, it's dropped a lot from what we're allocated to what we're actually using. And we've been pretty proactive about leaks. You might remember Christmas was big. But we've been, last month we were down to 6% on water loss, so we're staying after it on that end.
So question for you, do you have a water shortage contingency plan for yours?
We don't at this point. We're talking about, getting some networking with some of the other districts. And the problem is, what we have is upstream is upstream is Gaskey. So, unless they're, in a better situation than we are as the water drops, then I'm not sure where else we can go.
Right. And how about climate? Do you guys have a drought contingency plan?
Not per se. We're hoping our 3 wells do really well, even though we've restricted the times we're using them for billback and everything. So far, we haven't run into any problems. We have been talking because the Yurok tribe is also there, and they have put in their new casino and everything. So we are talking about some backup fire suppression for possibilities and some ladders.
I was wrong on Panther Flat Campground. They did change that over to a well several years ago. The Forest Service can't draw surface water anymore. So they did draw that out and take it out of a well. I don't know about that well in particular, but I do know of at least one well on the flat down in Gaskey that has gone dry. And a couple of people who were drawing off springs down in North Fork had their springs had dried out. So water is starting to become a problem for people in private systems.
Has anybody else heard of any wells, Eric? Have you heard any wells yet?
You know, we haven't received any calls that I'm aware of this year. Last year, actually, we received several in October, so we're expecting to receive some.
So that's pretty typical this time of year? Or?
No, I wouldn't say it's typical, but it did start to occur last year.
You have several up in Big Flat, up on Boulevard. So they're getting water trucked into them.
Who else is here? Mr. Burke.
Actually, we have it's not called a contingency plan, it's contingency ordinance back in 1988 when I assumed the state was having the same problem. They drafted an ordinance 1602, which is basically the same verbiage that's in this new one that you had in. And the fines are a little outdated, but we just this last month published the same water efficiency that actually we took it right off yours, so we put that out. Ours are well, I just checked before I come in, we're about 4/10 lower this year than we was last year. We've dropped probably just about 9/10 since May. What we have is 40-foot wells, all in one location. And we dropped a foot, 9/10 a foot, out of 20 feet of water. So we're really not experiencing any problems.
And how many families do you serve?
We have about 600. Right now we have Mr. Rancheria, not because of the water source, but Mr. Rancheria is on our water with number 53, 54 homes. So we're about 650.
Did I miss anybody? Any other water in the room? Okay, questions for these guys? Anybody have any questions for them? Any concerns? Yes.
I'm with this Rancheria, and we're drafting, or we have one being made a drought contingency plan that we got to get. We're getting it written down specifically for us. And then we're going to, I guess, we got to submit it to the council, and they approve it. So we're in the process of having a contingency plan, and I'm not sure if after that then we're going to declare the drought emergency. I know we get a lot of funding from the federal IHS and EPA, so there's a lot of money that we use to do that. But I mean, that's what we're doing right now is we're getting one written out. I don't know, we're getting help from people when they're ready because they've declared the emergency. I know the EOC.
Bureau of Humboldt is declared in Humboldt County, yes. 2 tribes have declared, yes.
So actually, all 3 tribes in Humboldt. So you have the Karuk, Hupa, and the Huron tribe all proclaimed the emergency. And I just wanted to let everyone know that I brought these pamphlets. It's just some basic resources that are available from the state in case anybody's interested. I brought a handful of them. There's links and information on. I don't know that you'll need it, but just in case, I brought some extra. And then I wanted to also let everyone know that this drought briefing, as well as a lot of other resources and links and information on funding and all kinds of stuff is available on the Cal OES website. And it's just called What You Need to Know. So if you just Google Cal OES, what you need to know, it's going to come up. And it's a whole page of applicable resources for communities to click in on and see what's going on.
Yeah, a lot of good resources on there.
Yes.
Yeah. And Save Our Water, that's...
Save our
water.
H2O.
Yeah, that's a nice, good. Okay, any other questions, any other concerns that we want to talk about regarding the drought? Jay, do you have any comments?
If anybody hears of any issues out there with businesses or individuals that are having difficulties, if they could make contact with Cindy or county administration, that would give us an idea of whether or not we go forward with the board and ask them to declare an emergency. There is some money available out there through SBA that may be available. We've done some outreach to some of the farmers. And you may have saw something today in the Triplicate, I think it was, regarding feed. We've had one farmer who had feed issues early in the year, but it hasn't come back. So if you hear something, just get a hold of us, and then we'll try to make decisions from there.
I think the biggest thing is that we all stay on the same page, and that's really what this meeting is about. So if somebody starts having problems, let us know so that we can all get on the same page and help each other out.
And the farmers, is pretty much what everyone else has said. They have enough water right now. They're worried about the wells pumping air, but so far they're doing okay. And for the last 6 months, they've been saying, we have enough for now, depends on what happens next. And then the next month, we have enough now, depends on what happens next, depends on the one good thing about the good weather is the harvest goes faster. But other than that, I haven't, as of a week ago, haven't heard of any wells running dry. They were again worried about pumping air. So far they have enough. And they don't anticipate problems, but if it continues like this, it certainly could in October, easily. But there's been no major crop losses. The big things for them is feed is really expensive because other places have had drought, and if they have to bring feed in, it's gone up in price.
And do all the farmers here, do they truck in?
Say that again?
Do the farmers here buy outside and bring in?
Well, some of the dairymen do. Mainly that's for dairies, not for the farmers. I mean, they do, yes, dairies in particular do. And yes, they do somewhat, and they're trying to go on the feed that they have.
So I wanted just to add, on the back of this is the USDA as well. So it's funding for that exact issue. So something that's happening with feed and ranchers, and SBA is on here too.
One of the issues that other counties have experienced so far with the drought, and we haven't seen it in our county yet, but it's water diversion, water theft, largely for keeping their illegal marijuana grows going. They're diverting the streams upriver, damming them up, trying to block off the water, restore it, and keep it upriver or upstream, where normally gardens are put in places where you have good water access. But because of the droughts, they're basically hoarding it, stealing it, and trying to keep it so they can keep their gardens alive and fresh. And you're also seeing theft of water, where they're stealing it from the hydrant systems, and they're stealing it from throwing it into bladders and trucks, and then trucking it back up to their gardens to keep their gardens going until they can harvest. So.
Okay. Any other comments, questions, concerns regarding the drought? Yes.
We have a question, and I think that this is in Santa Barbara. Is there any talk at the state level about using ocean water and using desalinization programs?
Dan, do you have an answer?
It has come up a few times, and there's no decision on that, but I guess it's supposed to be very expensive.
It is a very expensive
But
process.
when you're looking at the overall cost of drought, so
I know they did it in Santa Barbara, and then they kind of eased off a bit. It is very expensive.
I have heard talk about it, but no decisions are had.
Thank you.
Okay, yes.
I suppose if we wanted to get a better pulse on the groundwater situation, another option is to talk to the local well drillers. Talked to a local contractor recently, and he said his well was dry since January. And he's been on a waiting list, and there's about 80 on that. So I don't know how accurate, but it might be an option to explore.
That's a good idea.
That's a good point. Is the county, I know you guys were working on a plan to do some groundwater monitoring. Is that?
We're working on it. We need to get, there are some wells that are being monitored by the Department of Water Resources, and we have to get authorization from the landowners in order to have those be official, what they call them CASGEM wells, in order to officially be part of a monitoring entity for the Smith River Basin. So I've heard from one of the landowners. I'm still waiting to hear from the others. So yeah, that's ongoing.
One of the byproducts, at least one of the concerns that a lot of rural areas have with the with the drought issue is legislation being passed that's going to require monitors being placed on all wells, and then being able to control the groundwater based on content and utilization into individual landowners long used wells. So that's because that's been implemented in various areas around the state in various counties already. But they're with the drought, they're looking to try to push that out statewide. So.
It's really, that's the only way to be proactive on the situation, is to have some sort of monitoring, like Myron was talking about with the drawdown levels, and that way, once you do start to get low, you can actually react in time to make a difference before you really have a problem.
Anybody else? Okay, well, I
And
want
when you tell the state that we're in one of the worst droughts ever, and they ask how much rain did you get, and I say between 30 and 35 inches, it just doesn't.
the conference yesterday, they're like, we heard you got a lot of water up there, Bill.
Yeah,
Cheeks us.
They say, no wonder.
No, we don't. Yeah. Okay, so that's part of the water drought conference that I want to do just to talk. So if you guys want to leave that are part of that, you're welcome to stay if you want to stay. We're going to start in with the Emergency Operational Center meeting, which is basically what we do when we do have a disaster. I thought it was very fitting to have this meeting at the EOC meeting because we are the ones that would support what's happening out in the field if we did get activated and we had a drought situation coming down north. So thank you guys for coming. And we are going to move into the catastrophic contingency plan. When we last met, we activated with the state. Remember, we had the EOC exercise for 8 hours, and we exercised with the state. Jan was very nice enough and put us in for a reward for doing that.